Hey friends, this is Rob Smith back with to walk you through a little bit of a framework on what context can do for you. And clearly we used our own engine to build this out, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do a quick walkthrough. So when I wanted to build out this mini framework tree for you to show what context could do for you, what I did was I first created a context statement that I could feed into context itself. So the prompt I used was context is software that merges AI with mental model visualization to help executives, coaches, academics, analysts, and others to see, map, and understand the bigger picture in any context so they can navigate the world with greater clarity and confidence. So you can see that it's a pretty good prompt. I mean, I'm saying quite a bit of things about what context is, who it's for, what some of the benefits are, because I'm trying to give it enough information so that it can do the job I want it to do. But you'll also notice like it's not multiple pages of text, and I've not unpacked a huge amount of detail, just enough to get it started. You'll also notice that the framework that I'm using here is the value proposition canvas. Entrepreneurs are very familiar with this value proposition canvas, and I have put it into a four quadrant framework shape or lens shape. And this shape is then saying, okay, here's the psychological value of context. Here's the action values that you can get, the systemic values and the cultural values. So psychologically, it can grow your mind by growing your mental model inventory, the mental models you're familiar with. It improves cognitive abilities and allows you to comprehend complex scenarios and navigate them more effectively. You see a bigger landscape. You can deepen your leadership. In the lower left, releases team intelligence. It can integrate and represent diverse points of view and generate collective intelligence that way. Can galvanize and excite stakeholders. So you could imagine doing exactly what I'm doing with you here. You could imagine doing this for a client. You could imagine doing this for a project you're running. You could imagine doing this for your family. I mean, you can imagine doing it in a lot of different scenarios where you are able to build some frameworks that provide perspective and that also, frankly, could be shared with others to let them see the bigger picture that you see and that you are helping them navigate. Because really what it does, this third one here, is promote shared understanding. It's really important. Up in the upper right, the action value, it can lead to quicker and more coherent decisions. The environments I work in are very complex, and I use it quite a bit to help kind of get my hands around that complexity to do it quickly. And a lot of complexity navigation ultimately comes down to understanding contexts and doing it fairly quickly, but not losing a huge amount of the important detail when doing so. So that leads to faster strategic navigation and it helps you tame complexity. So all themes that I think many of us leaders are familiar with. In the lower right, system value, it allows you to see strategic leverage points. You can add more value in your work, and it can also support thought leadership. The frameworks that we're using and the way in which they can help support your perspectives is going to usually make the people who are doing this kind of work and using this kind of tool the most advanced cognitive perspective takers in any situation in any room. We're pretty confident about that. So thought leadership comes pretty naturally from using it. So you'll notice that I'm modeling how you might use something like this with this four quadrants, with this value proposition canvas. You'll also notice that I have nested a bunch of lenses inside of this. So if I look at the release team intelligence one and I open that up, here we are in another four quadrant lens shape, but the template, the mental model I'm doing is illustrate with examples. So this is really cool because, and this is one of my favorite frameworks because which is what it comes through with, is such a perspective shift. What it's doing with illustrate with examples is it's taking whatever context you give it and it's saying, okay, I'm going to give you concrete perspectives of other people as they might see it, this context. And I'm going to bring that forward. and I'm going to give you examples of that. So here it says in the upper left quadrant, John, a seasoned executive at a large tech company, was struggling with decision making. His team had diverse viewpoints, but he found it challenging to integrate these perspectives into a cohesive strategy. So it's going through an experience that this fictional guy, John, is having, but notice that it's giving you the upper left kind of scenario, like why he's actually struggling in his interior. Um, that's tying it to this concept of unleashing collective intelligence. So again, if this were your client and you were creating a value proposition canvas up here for work you're doing, and then you applied this particular lens, which is illustrate with examples, you immediately can start to put yourself into situations that your client, various stakeholders around your client might be experiencing that allows you to very quickly see what the more holistic stakeholder environment looks like. Not to mention that we actually have a whole bunch of stakeholder lenses that you could specifically apply to it. Creating a stakeholder map, overcoming objections, taking perspectives alongside these folks, etc. Okay, just moving to a couple of other examples. In the lower left is talking about a government agency and a new policy that was having resistance from stakeholders. Another one is a leadership team at a nonprofit organization dealing with internal conflicts and miscommunication. And it's talking about how applying lenses to their context, they were able to visualize their collective values and identify the sources of conflict, and so on and so forth. So it's given me 8 examples of how this thing is valuable because that's what I asked it for, right? And you can just see how you'd apply that in many different ways. So I'll go back to the top level lens. Now let's see if I wanted to tame complexity. I nested a lens here. I go one down and I can see that this is an explain this framework. So what I'm saying is, hey, explain to me what it means to tame complexity with context. Just explain that to me. And put it into levels, put it into a levels framework. So levels, as you may have seen, you can use it in a lot of different ways. But in this particular instance, it's like, okay, give me this nested hierarchy, which is like level 1. Okay, here's a basic understanding of contexts. Number 2, how it tames complexity. Well, here's the application of the lenses. Number 3 is the interrogation of context, and level 4 is strategic navigation. So you can see it built a hierarchy where it's getting more and more complex in your usage. Basic 1, a basic understanding of context. At this initial level, users become acquainted with the concept of context and the role they play in decision-making processes. Okay, fair enough. Level 2, application of lenses to these identified contexts. These lenses represent different perspectives, mental models, or epistemological frames that can be used to analyze the context. They include things like systems thinking, stakeholder analysis, risk assessment, stages of development, and more. By applying these lenses, users can gain a more comprehensive understanding of the dynamics at play within a context. Software provides a wide range of lenses, allowing users to select the ones that are most relevant to their specific situation. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's really doing my job for me in a lot of ways. Level 3, interrogation of contexts. Yeah, this is exactly right. Actually, what context really does powerfully is it allows you to take a very simple context, like I teed up here, right? One paragraph about the software was my context. And I mean, I literally could generate 5, 10, 15, 20 mental models against that context in an interrogatory kind of way quickly. I mean, in minutes, and then delete the ones I don't want, keep the ones I do want, do highlights, whatever, and then move on. But having walked away with a much more multi-perspectival and holistic view of the situation. And then finally, strategic navigation, using insights gained from interrogation to inform strategic decision making, et cetera, et cetera. Ongoing analysis and reflection. So it's great, right? How you can see how I combined the nesting with some new lens or some new mental models or new frameworks with this lens shape to get a new view on taming complexity. Let's see, I'll pick one more, and this one here. just to remind you where I came from. So promotes shared understanding. Context maps can be generated in a group setting to enhance real-time group facilitation, communication, and collaboration among team members. We actually do use it this way. So sometimes we'll be in a meeting or something where it's like we really kind of need to get our hands around a situation quickly and see if we can model it. We'll throw it into context. It'll come up with a framework. We can kind of look at it, and we now have a much richer discussion. So what this did is I gave it a prompt called to make it very specific to show it to you concretely. I said, what are the perspectives and mental models that need to be considered for every stakeholder of a city's carbon capture initiative? And then I did a perspective taking framework. And the perspective taking framework that I used was first person. So I said, give me short thoughts in a first person way. And sure enough, that's exactly what it did. I put it into a table format and it said, okay, city officials, those who make decisions about the city's policies and initiatives, here's their perspective on carbon capture initiative. Quote, I believe this initiative can improve our city's environmental footprint. Quote, I need to balance the city's budget and the cost of this initiative. The mental model of carbon capture. I view carbon capture as a necessary step towards a sustainable city. I understand it as a complex process that requires substantial resources. Okay, very interesting. And then it's got a local business point of view. It's got a residential point of view, and it's got environmental NGOs point of view. Now, if at any time I said, I want to like emphasize these people and not these stakeholders, or I want to go deeper into this area or whatever, I could change my prompt and it would then give me more of what I wanted. But you can see how powerful it is to start taking perspectives of other people on a stakeholder by stakeholder basis, literally in just minutes by giving it a context and then refracting it through a perspective taking lens of this kind. So hopefully I've demonstrated a bunch of features that you may or may not have been aware of, and you can get a little bit better sense of what a platform like Context can help you do. Thanks for being here.